Thank you, Kelly. Good morning, Grizzlies. Thank you for your time today. My name is Doug McMillan. I make teams come alive. My career has spanned over several decades. I've been fortunate to lead few to hundreds. I've worked as far north as the Yukon and as far south as Panama. But with that, as I've traveled, had different responsibilities, I've been able to instill cultures within the groups that no is never the answer, but rather an opportunity to chase the what if. So with that, who am I and what is me? To do that, I have to go back to the beginning. I was raised on a farm west of Edmonton with 3 brothers, 2 older, 1 younger. Those are the days that really set my DNA. Those are the days I learned hard work and responsibility. But on top of that, learned how to play and dream. I remember the days of taking binder twine and haywire and making 747s. But with life, there are speed bumps. My first speed bump came to me at 15 years of age. We actually had to leave the farm. The city of Edmonton grew and swallowed up our land. So off to Red Deer we went. So moving to Red Deer, we are now in the city, and I started a new school in grade 10. Speed bump number 2 came along about 6 months after that. My parents were actually separated and headed for divorce after 22 years of marriage. The reality was, I'm now in a broken home, raised by a single mom. Was it a tragedy? Yes and no. But what it really was is it gave me strength, determination, and independence to never give up. So with everything in life, things travel in threes. So my third speed bump hit me. At the end of grade 11, I was kicked out of high school. Over the summer, I decided I can't quit, can't give up. So I actually was able to negotiate a way into Red Deer College to actually, as an underage student, complete my senior matric courses that I required to go on to university at some point in my life. For the next 4 years, I worked in labor positions throughout Alberta and BC, to eventually landing in Edmonton, where I started my career at the University of Alberta. These early days of my life taught me I can do the impossible. So as we fast forward to today, today's oil and gas industry is bleak. And now we have COVID upon us. And who knows how that's going to come out. But most important is leaders now have an opportunity to actually open up that toolbox, reach in, grab that binder twine and haywire, and make that new 747. For me, I find leaders to be most effective right now in these times is actually to recognize and be able to reach over to that frightened, hurting person and give them that hug and a smile, virtual hug and a smile, and let them know we'll be okay, we'll get through this. I love the Winston Churchill quote, if you're going through hell, keep going. Opportunities are bleak in the oil and gas industry, but I believe my value and ability to inspire and lead teams is transferable across industries. Companies are going to look for that general manager or that business leader in division leader to actually take those living assets and find their passions and strengths and lead them forward. I'm that person by linking heart, mind, and soul that will be able to take these people and help guide them through the storms ahead of us. And with that, I'd like to pass back to the Grizzlies to help me in my new adventure as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. Your resilience and your ability to navigate an opportunity really came through in your pitch. Also, your compassion. Just before we go on and I hand it over to the Grizzlies, I'm just wondering, what's your dream if you could have what you wanted right now?
Well, COVID could go away. For my dream, at this point in my life, I would really enjoy the point where I could actually not be too concerned about the financial situation, where I can actually pay it forward. I do have 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. So they're my life and my wife. But there's more, there's bigger things out there than just the paycheck. And I just really want to be in the position where I can give back.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And I will now hand it over to the Grizzly panel for questions, whoever would like to start.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Manoj Somanathan. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you.
So how is your day going today?
Well, this virtual thing's kind of weird, but other than that, okay.
Okay. So yeah, we would like to know your story actually. So just wanted to know, how did you get to where you are today, and what gave you the ability to do your job so well so far?
Like I had mentioned in my opening, I've just come to understand and accept there are speed bumps in life, but no matter where I was and what I did, you know, it was just, how do you climb that mountain? It's just one step at a time. And it was just knowing that you'll get to the top and you get to the other side. You'll draw on people around you, and that's what's inspired me a lot, is the teams and people I've been with. Once their passions and strengths come through, it just fuels me. So really, it's a combination of many opportunities that have actually helped me proceed in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe we would like to know, where do you think you add exceptional value in your previous work or whatever you did before? You can give us some examples for that.
Previous work, there's been quite a number over the years, but I would have to probably go back to one of the most recent, although it's not a great story, it's a yin and a yang, if you will. I was a senior executive in a publicly traded company where we actually had to go into CCAA. But what was profound about that was the chairman of the board had asked me to actually de facto lead the company through the process. It was new to me, so I was teamed up with Ernst & Young, and we had to keep the company together. What was profound about it was one of those things where I've got to go into the fire and people got to come with me. But how do I do that? And it was just pure passion and believing in the people to keep the thing going. The sad thing is that the company eventually sold assets and you know, it dissolved, if you will. But we kept it going to the point where we actually recovered all the unsecured debt, the secured debt, and we actually went up to about 70% of retainings for the bondholders, but we missed the equity holders. But just able to run between the United States and Canada on flights back and forth for a period of about 4 months, and then presenting the company as I was the lead presenter for the suitors. It was ugly on one side, but very fulfilling on the other, to know that we were able to keep people together as long as we could.
And why do you like to do this? I mean, what is your motivation?
My motivation is, you know, getting up every day and knowing that I have a choice if that glass is half full or half empty. And I know it's a cliche, but I've always looked for that positive. Just what is that little glimmer of hope, and chased it. It could be as simple as getting the kids out of bed and cracking a smile, or it could be running downtown to deal with the crisis, to try and sort out with some people, whatever, to get them on a positive track. It's just life in general. And it's like, never give up. There are always challenges, but it's the positive we look for what makes us better people.
Perfect.
Hi, Doug. Thanks, Manoj. It's Pauline here. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, just picking up where Manoj had started. And, you know, as I was looking at your resume, you've got this kind of mix of the technical and then a lot of senior leadership roles in the last number of years. And so, you know, when you think about your value proposition. You talked about either general management or sort of that management piece, but you know, if you were to sort of define your value proposition, just taking that a little bit further and saying, you know, if I'm looking to hire you, what is it that you're offering in terms of, there's lots of value, just so you know, on your, just coming through on your resume, and then your LinkedIn, but also, you know, I guess if you and I were chatting and I was looking to hire you, what do you think your value proposition is? The thing that you most feel you can offer to an employer?
I led off with it in my pitch, but what I really believe is that I do make teams come alive. And what differentiates myself from, say, from other people in the industry, if you will, with the credentials, is that I look at the living assets, which are the people, as the ultimate in order to go forward. So in saying that, what I'm able to do is just be part of the people. So part of the, actually sit back and listen and understand and actually find their passion and their strengths. And the way I look at it is from a football analogy. We have a playing field to play on, right? But we're given a team of people. And what I'm able to do is actually take every one of those individual players, if you will, and find out what their strengths are, what their passion is, and build the team around them and what they are. So don't give them a status quo playbook. Actually build a playbook around them. And what I find by doing that is actually people come out of their shell. They're actually allowed to step out of bounds, because as a team, we'll pull them back in. And we'll know the direction is where the goal line is, where we're headed. And that's what we do, is we make it alive. And what I find with that is it's toxic in a positive way, because people start to get inspired by each other, and it fuels each other. And it's amazing the level of energy that picks up and the innovation that takes off from that. So that's really the approach I bring, is actually finding where these people fit and how we can make it go forward.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry, Ron, just one last piece. So further to that, because I love some football. You know, so are you wanting to build a championship team and that's what you pride yourself in? Or is it that you want to, you know, you're able to take sort of a whole bunch of draft picks and create something where down the line, you know, are you a builder? Or are you a perfecter when it comes to leadership of a team?
I would say I'm a builder in the fact that I've never been much for the shiny lights on myself. It's just, I get the joy of building the team and having them succeed. So that's really the approach and what inspires me most.
Thank you.
Hey, Doug, this is Ron here. Nice pitch. So it's tough times. There's a lot of amazing leaders that are coming out of the oil and gas industry right now. So the hard part is, how do you differentiate? So this is a problem in Calgary, is saying, I want to transition and I think I have all the skills to move into another industry because they're transferable. But it's always a hard sell for other industries coming to oil and gas. So how do you, first of all, have you done research into other industries that you think you might want to transition into? And how would you sell them that you actually are adaptable to their industry? And great leadership is an excellent track record, but sometimes they're looking for something a little more tangible that says, okay, he also gets our industry. So I wonder if you've done some research and thoughts about that.
To be perfectly frank about that, I have not been able to, at this point in time, dig into the other industries, albeit the COVID is upon us, and I'm doing the homeschooling scenario with the children and trying to keep the lid on. However, in saying that, as I'm a young 29 years old, I've been able to actually work and play in a lot of different industries and have a lot of friends and cohorts around, North America, if not the world, that are in different industries. The interesting thing about the oil and gas side of the world is that was only part of my life post-secondary. I was involved with quite a few different industries, and I've always had an interest. So yes, and when I get back to your point is well taken, is that I have to actually go to the next step and actually start to look at those industries. The challenge I have right now with that is which industries are going to come out of COVID in a positive light. So it's a little bit of a gray area, but yes, that's absolutely where I have to attack my next goal.
And would you have any passions around any, or have you got that far?
Not yet. One of the things that has interest me, and I'm not a proponent of it, is the green side of the world. In the fact saying, I understand it, I love the technology, I love the science behind it, but I like to be practical about that and say, okay, what can we do and how do we link, the green side of the world and we, the terrible oil and gas people. So that kind of interests me because maybe there's some bridging because we have to be pragmatic about it. I mean, we all know that it's pretty, like, the mathematics just don't work that we can run, power generators, windmills, if you will, in Alberta during a high pressure cold snap in January. It tends to be not much wind at the time. But the point being is that we have to get our heads together and collaborate. So that's one area that is of some interest. But other than that, I have not been able to narrow down on which way we're going to go with this. Any ideas?
Hey, Dad.
Well, I'll just finish up there. I saw, sadly, it's a skill you might have that you wouldn't have thought of, having gone through a bankruptcy and led that through. That sadly is a transferable skill. And you might want to actually, find a positive spin on that because I actually think times ahead there'll be a lot of people looking at how to navigate that world, and it probably won't be just the oil and gas industry.
Oh, very good point. Very interesting.
Hi, Doug. This is Jennifer.
Hi, Grizzly.
And I just want to say I really liked your pitch. I thought it was good, and I like the analogies that you used about building a 747 from binder twine. I thought that was an interesting to start with that and then pull it back into.
They didn't fly very well.
I don't have to mention that, but I still am trying to figure out what you're looking for a little bit. I am gathering that you're looking to be a business leader, that you want to lead teams, and really it's not any particular industry that you're interested in. It's more about where could you be helpful to an organization to build teams. Am I on the right path there?
Yeah, you're on the right path. And I think if I explain it a little bit more cohesive, I have been in the senior executive positions in public companies. So I've been at the top level, if you will. But my passion, once you get into those positions, it tends to become very one-sided. It's about the financials. It's about moving forward. Where I really believe my strengths and where my passions are is actually as a general on the front lines. So what I'm looking at is whether corporations, whether they're international investors or whoever, they're going to need people on the front lines to actually lead the teams of people to help work with them. I'm wide open to starting at ground level. There's no issues there at all because, like I said, climbing a mountain, I have to take one step at a time. But I really believe and enjoy the passion of actually pulling people together and elevating those teams. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm. And so just sort of building on Ron's question there a little bit is like who are you targeting? Who are you looking for? Are you looking for small companies that are growing? Are you looking for large corporations, like you say, international? Are you, what when you think about it and you try to consider where you would like to jump in, what appeals to you in that kind of, and where are you going to be looking?
Well, from a stability standpoint, and where I actually see a lot of upside to, is actually dealing with the international companies, call it investing in Canada, because I know there's been a flight of capital out of the country. However, it's going to return. And the reason I say this is because over my career, I've dealt with many, companies or corporations outside of Canada. And I get along extremely well in those scenarios. And what I like about that is it gives my family some stability going forward, if you will. But it's a scenario where a company's coming into Canada and they've got to understand the cultures and what have you and how do we make it work. Well, that's where I can fit in and I can make the difference to bridge it. As far as the smaller companies, I looked at my career. It's tough to actually start from scratch, especially in this day and age, especially with the financial challenges we do have. So I'd be looking for size-wise, it can be, well, we're wide open to anything, but it could be, 50 to 100 to several thousand, depending. So really looking for stability and actually a company that really has a vision to move forward.
So I think that's great that you have that in your mind, because that's what then you can, the more you are, sort of aware of what will suit you and what will fit you, the more you will target that. And I look at your resume, I think it's a great resume, but it doesn't say that to me. It talks about startup expertise and sort of that sort of thing. And I think if that's what you're looking for, then that's what you want to show in your resume.
Okay,
It's Pauline. Yeah, it's Pauline here, Doug. I would agree with Jennifer. One of the things, now that we've had a chance to hear from you, depending on how you choose to focus, and it was a question I actually had for you before you presented, was, do you want to offer up some of the technical expertise that you've gained in your previous life, or is it really a focus on that executive leadership where, yes, you're knowledgeable about, in this case, specific into an industry or the building executive of leading teams. So out of bankruptcy, whether it's M&A, whatever happens to be happening in the next little while. Because I think your resume would probably need to be, in fact, I wouldn't even say probably, needs to be tweaked to either reflect that sort of executive offering. And it's more about the offering. And I think you're probably hearing that a little bit consistently from myself, Ron, and Jennifer, about the offering, and that may be something that you're thinking about. And you may need to, like you said, research the other industries that you could apply it to, because I could see a very crisp sort of, here's the things that I bring based on the speed bumps, so to speak, right? You can incorporate that, but it needs to be pulled together, I think, that way. And it may be something that you're still thinking about. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's a very fair statement.
Okay, because that's what comes across. And I think as you refine, because you have your MBA in addition to being an engineer, right? So you understand business, obviously, on the execution level. And I think that may be, to Ron's point, some of the pieces where you're going to have to make that connection for people. They'll be interested in your teams. And your team, the work, how you built teams, but they'll also really be interested in how are you going to help me run my business.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I just want to pitch in with something maybe a little bit different, Doug, and sort of disrupt a little bit of the discussion, only around the sense of, look, structures are really changing, right?
Yes.
You guys, like, this sense of these stable structures, these large entities, we're in radical rethink. Are we, we're in radical rethink. I mean, and a lot of them right now, I know they're going to come out of this going, hey, this breakdown that we had actually showed us a few things. And part of it is we probably don't need all this infrastructure in the same way we did. And I think we're going to have a real positive disruption of these large entities rethinking themselves, the bricks and mortars, and also just so I'm wondering, given that, Doug, because I feel like you have, I know you say stability, and I'm just sort of giving you a little bit of maybe a different energy here, is that I think you have the incredible skills to navigate and be, you know, a crisis management consultant or somebody that can go in and support teams. Like, this is the time when we're actually being called to generate our own vector of leadership in the world. And there's been no better time, I think, than for someone like you. And I'm just wondering if it's the stability that worries you about going out on your own and offering something into a vacuum that's really going to be needed, where I don't know that these entities are going to be looking to restructure and bring in executives. Do you know what I'm saying here? So is there an opportunity for you to think about riding the wave of this and going in like powerfully as a consultant to support support teams, guide that? Is that anything you could think of doing?
Actually, that is very interesting. You say that, you know, and I'm going to digress here for a minute. With the higher landing platform, and this is before virtual, what I found with it is that it's a fabulous group of people brought together from all different walks. We're all in it for the same reason, is to become better and to step better. But I found myself just enthralled with all the stories, all the passions that people brought up. And I was able to actually see things in kind of a weird way where, you know, maybe it's because I've seen a few things in my life, and where some of the people some of the younger people per se would make a comment and have a little bit of self-doubt. And I was just able to give them a little bit of a twist and some encouragement, maybe think of things a little bit differently, and they lit up. And it's kind of interesting you bring that up, because I sat back and it's one of those implicit things that that was really, you know, satisfying in a selfish way, if you will. So yeah, it's absolutely wide open to that whole concept, you know. And I make it sound like stability is everything. Well, you know, I mean, when I first started my career and moved up to Grand Prairie, I lived in my pickup truck, so I've done it before. So I'm not too worried about those things.
Well, and the truth is, you guys, isn't it true? Like, there is no stability. What we thought was stable isn't actually stable. It's an illusion of stability. And what's more anti-fragile is you potentially taking those skills, right? And using them as you just explained, because you also mentioned you want to give back. There's more space for you to craft your own giving back.
Yes.
Doing something like that than to get into a 9-to-5 structure that structures you and contains you. I think you could be incredibly useful in this new era. And I'd really encourage you to just shake up the box a little bit and not want to go back to the same sort of rhythm, and think about, hey, I might have some real skills here to offer.
And I think that can be true in a number of ways. So I think it's possible that that people companies will be different after this. Companies will be rebuilding. Companies will be trying to figure out how they get back on their feet after this process, whether they've been temporarily shut down or reduced in size or that sort of thing. And I think there's an opportunity. I totally agree with you as a consultant to come in and help, but there may be companies who are looking exactly for that. Do I have somebody who can help me rebuild? And you seem like the kind of person who has experience with that, like taking building up from, okay, I got knocked down here and I dusted myself up and I helped, myself, and now I know how to help others too. So that's another area to be thinking about.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. I think if you can, people are always looking to solve a problem, right? So if you can be there at the right time with the right message to solve the problem that they have, then they might just get you in the door for that little problem, but you can demonstrate that if you can solve that problem, you solve a lot of problems. And if it's, to me, based on your experience, because everybody's going through tough times. So before, the message is always the oil and gas industry, it's tough times, but try something else. Now that's transferable across all kinds of companies right now. And the background going through a bankruptcy is probably going to add a lot of value. So I would, if you can target a company or find a company that's going through that and go in with a nugget of where you can identify their problem, if you can connect with the right person and say, I can solve that, and here's what I've done in the past to do that, I actually think it probably doesn't matter what the industry is anymore now, right? Because everybody's trying to solve some problems.
Yeah, I think Callie, Ron, and Jennifer make some great points. It's being opportunistic. We focus on rebuild, but it may be help with deconstructing, right? Deconstructing to make a more perfect sort of, if you can call it that, way of doing business. Because I think we don't know what it will look like, but it certainly won't go back to the same. So that may stretch you a little bit, kind of identifying, well, where is the opportunity? But I think you've already been exposed to it. It's just a matter of now, to Ron's point, exploring who out there is going to need that support. And I do think there will be a need there. So it may be a piece of work that builds onto another piece of work. And I'll tell you, as a consultant, sometimes it's a lot of times it's opportunistic. Right. So give that some thought, because I think that's an easier transition for you for sure.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Doug, for your presentation this morning. And we're going to take our recess to our Grizzly cave to discuss, and we'll see you in there in a few minutes.